First things first, my name is Derek. I'm a former opiate addict, and I've been in the outpatient treatment program at Genesis Family Health for over 4 years. Next month, I'll be celebrating 5 years clean and sober. As you guys know, September is Suicide Prevention Month, and it's great to see so many awesome people supporting such a good cause. And September is also Recovery Month, so I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about that today. The dangers of addiction and what we're seeing in our state, as well as the recovery process and some positive things about it. So this is actually my first time discussing my journey on such a public forum, and I want to, of course, thank Compass, Elaine, and all of you guys for allowing me the opportunity to do so, as well as all of you that are speaking today. First things first, I want to read some statistics for you all. A lot of these numbers you're probably hearing for the first time, and when I first heard them, it broke my heart to realize how serious it was becoming, and it really opened my eyes to a lot of things. 50% of people that are diagnosed with mental illness will struggle with substance abuse at some point in their lives. 48.5 million Americans over the age of 12 have battled the substance use disorder in the past year. That's nearly 17%, or 1 in 6 people. Of that 48.5 million people, approximately 2.2 million of them are adolescents aged 12 to 17. Due to the fentanyl epidemic, it's estimated that nearly 500,000 of them will not survive their addiction if nothing changes. Also, of that 48.5 million, 9.2 million of them are young adults ages 18 to 25. That's 27.1% of our current population. And it's estimated that 2.3 million of them will not survive their addiction if nothing changes. Over the last 4 years, fentanyl overdoses have increased by 2,100%. Fentanyl is 100 times stronger than morphine, and roughly 60% of drugs sold on the street are laced with a lethal amount of fentanyl. Fentanyl overdoses are the leading cause of death in people under 40 in 15 states, including our state of Kansas. Of course, these numbers are scary and they are heartbreaking. However, those stats are only contingent with one thing, and that's if nothing changes. There is things that we can do, there's legislation that can be passed, and there are people that you and me can save. It could be somebody in your family, somebody in your job, or even somebody standing next to you today, but regardless, there are ways that we can make a difference in our state and in this country. You see, I'm one of the lucky ones. I found recovery when a lot of people didn't, and I was able to get past my addiction before the fentanyl epidemic became as serious as it is today. Every journey of recovery looks a lot different, and all of them end a lot different. But now, more than ever, it's truly a matter of life or death. One fentanyl-laced pill can kill so fast that not even Narcan can save you. And accidental overdoses have increased substantially year after year, and now one dose can really be the end. Like I said before, everybody's story is different. Mine started when I was 19 years old. I went to a dentist office. I had some work done, and I was prescribed some prescription painkillers, 10 pills. I went home, I took 3 of those pills, and 30 minutes later, my whole life was turned upside down. A lot of people talk about their moment when they realized that they were an addict, and that moment for me was at 19, sitting on my couch, when I realized how serious that this was gonna have its grasp on me. And as scary as it was, at the time, it was a feeling that I never wanted to go away, and I spent the next years of my life obsessing over it. I started taking higher dosages and stronger opiates, and I started using drugs when I was completely alone, with my friends, with my family, at work, wherever it may be. I'd betray anybody that would get in my way of me getting high without thinking twice about it. This process continued for 3 years without ever slowing down to see the destruction that I had caused in my family, my relationships, and in myself. I pretty much went through the same downward spiral that a lot of addicts do. I lost my job, my house, my car, and worst of all, I lost the trust of my family and friends. On May 25th, 2018, I got a phone call that one of my best friends had lost his battle to opiate addiction. He had overdosed and passed away at only 20 years old. My last message that I sent to him wasn't something supportive, it wasn't something powerful. It was, do you want to come over and get high today? It took me a really long time to forgive myself for that. But in that moment, all those years ago, I didn't feel guilty, I didn't feel remorseful. All I could think about was, how am I going to get my hands on more pills if my friend is gone? I'm sharing this with you not because I'm proud of it, but because I want you to empathize with just how an addicted brain functions. And when you're in active addiction, nothing is more important than your next dose. I wish I had a single profound moment to share with you about when I decided I needed to get sober, but I didn't really have that. I think it was a combination of losing everything, being alone, and going through withdrawal every day. I think my support system and all the prayers that I received had finally made their way through, and I woke up one day and decided that I had had enough. October 31st, 2020, I gave up drugs in pursuit of a better life. And after being sober a couple of months, I think that I expected all of my problems and character flaws to just go away. But truthfully, that first year of recovery is something so difficult, and you don't hear a lot of people talk about what it looks like at 6 months sober or 1 year sober. And I think for me personally, that's one of the most important parts. Because I developed these horrible traits and a lack of empathy that didn't just go away when the drugs did. I still treated people poorly, I lied to people I loved, I felt guilty, I had low self-esteem, I enjoyed bringing people down. Frankly, I hated myself. And when I looked in the mirror for that whole first year, all I saw was the same drug addict looking back at me. And I had such a hard time being able to see anything other than that. But the worst part about it was in that moment, I really felt like nobody understood. Nobody could put themselves in my shoes and really fully understand what I went through and what I was recovering from. I felt hopeless. I let that mindset put me in a terrible place that was even harder to dig out of than drug addiction. Like I said earlier, that's something you don't hear a lot from people in recovery, is what that year one mark looks like. But when you're rebuilding, when you've lost everything and you're going through a complete shift from where you were and you've numbed so many things for so long, a lot of suicides in people in recovery happen in that first year, not because of their addiction, but because of what it looks like after. And it's an important thing to discuss. One more story I want to share with you guys was around that time when I was in that first year of recovery. It was the first time in my life that I felt suicidal. I convinced myself that it was the only way for me to be able to move on. And every day that I would wake up, I would tell myself that my decisions don't matter today because I'm just going to end it all tomorrow. The turning point for me came one day when I was working out of town, staying in a hotel. And that day that I had planned to throw it all away. My goal was to take a high enough dose, throw it all away, and let that be the end. But that night changed a lot for me because my beautiful fiance, Elise, who at the time barely knew me, was there for me in a way that nobody has been before. I finally felt in that moment that somebody saw me for something other than a drug addict. She came, she talked to me, we played some games together, and I do believe today that God sent her my way to save my life that night. Elise and I are getting married soon. She's great, by the way, just saying. But that moment was awesome and definitely a turning point for us, for sure. So I share that story because something so small from somebody that barely knew me, somebody that didn't have anything to gain by being there for me, something so minor from the outside looking in, it saved me, and in the process, it saved those I love. Now, to wrap up, I know that my experience in addiction now doesn't define me. It did strengthen me, and it gave me an understanding of how other people are going through the same thing that I did. And also that sometimes a small act of kindness, a gesture of empathy, or a shoulder to cry on is all that somebody needs to see the value in their own life. And I hope that all of you can take that away from my speech today until we get that 48.5 million number of people battling substance abuse all the way down to zero. Thank you guys very much.